Hey, Patreon world, welcome to On Your Own 10, where we are going to be adding sub bass to 4 of our previous patches. So, in the public video, I talked briefly about how Massive uses its oscillators. Massive doesn't have a dedicated sub oscillator, guys. It has something much, much better, which is the third oscillator. So, with our initialized patch, we have a basic sawtooth waveform. Let's open the filter. Okay, very buzzy. Standard sawtooth. But then we can add this oscillator, which I've already turned down to 1 octave below. I have it over on square, and so now we have this. Just like we would have expected over in Centaurio. And then we can turn the volume of that down to halfway, 0. And just like we had in Centaurio, it blends really well. Go a little lower. So you can really hear it there in the bass range, okay? So what else? But we can also change the waveform naturally. So if we want a triangle, come over here, bring the wavetable position over to triangle, and also bring that up. So let's start with middle C. That's with no subwoofer. Sorry, no sub oscillator. F, and you can hear that separation that you don't get with the square. Incidentally, it does sound like it compresses the higher oscillator. Why does it do that? I'm not sure. It could have something to do with how this filter gets loaded, or who knows what, because I don't have any compression on here or anything. So, but that's how you have it. And naturally, you can use probably anything. I don't know how some of these are going to sound, because I have never gone through every single one of these waveforms. But for example, let's take this. That's not bad, really. Let's hear how it sounds with the full range system. Yeah, I mean, that's a very legitimate waveform for a subwoofer. Sorry, sub oscillator. Yeah, you know, 1 octave down, but you can put it wherever you'd like. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is open up 4 of my previous patches and add a sub oscillator to each one. I think these are from the factory library. So here we have a lead. So we have 4 from On Your Own 9. So let's do those. So let's start with the sour lead and hear how that sounds. Cool. So let's chuck a low oscillator on there and hear how that sounds. That's very different, isn't it? I mean, that's cool how it is. Let's try the triangle waveform. I don't like that one as much. So I'm going to go back to my square. We have a couple different squares, though. I wonder how different they sound. Here's sine square. And then here's the original square. Yeah, I like that. So I'm going to save it. We're just going to keep it simple and just add these sub oscillators. So save as Massive patches, lead sour, On Your Own 10, sour with sub. Okay, so that's that. Let's check out the next one, which is the clock, the bass clock. Okay. That's kind of cool. It's very digital. That's kind of neat. What is causing that? Is that my filter envelope kind of doing some funky stuff there? What is this? It's because I have a reverse. I want to see if maybe I can drop the decay and get that to come in a little sooner. That's kind of cool. You get a little lift at the end. So let's add the sub os and hear how that sounds. That's pretty fat. Without. Let's hear it on the full range system. Yeah, so that's one thing. If you listen here, when I'm playing in the second, I call it the second bass range, because you can only go so low before you start bottoming out and going into 20 hertz as your fundamental whatever. So here around C3, that's like your second bass range, I think. And because C2 is pretty much as low as you ever need to go, like right here. That's you don't really need to go much lower than that, because like B0 is next, and I think that's pretty much 20 hertz. So your mileage may vary. You know, you can obviously get a lot of overtones when you play down in this C1. So yeah, maybe you can go one lower, but it gets muddy. So use your discretion. But this is what we have without the sub oscillator. So here's the C3 range. Okay. And then here's the C2 range. Obviously a lot heavier. Now let me add the sub oscillator to the C3 range. Obviously way heavier. And then C2. It's just, the top gets really mushy, you know, so. He says when you add a sub oscillator to a bass sound, just transpose your playing up, or you can hit the button on your keyboard, or, you know, pretty much that's it. Or you could bring this to 0 and then this up to 12. A lot of different ways. But anyway. By turning the intensity down, I'm kind of going to end up with more of a sine. So I want to hear how the triangle sounds with this. I kind of like the dirty square. The only problem with Massive is pulse width modulation. I don't think you can really do a true pulse width modulation. Oh, can you hear? So pulse. Oh yeah, you can. So here you have like a positive pulse and a negative pulse, and here in the center you have a square. So turn these back on. And you could modulate that like with an LFO or something, let's say. We can modulate it here with the same one as we have for oscillator 2's intensity knob. Or we could use a different one and make it faster. That's pretty cool, huh? But whatever, you know, you could do whatever you want, so. The thing is, See, now you have sort of an atmospheric drone, okay? Something I find to be important is when you're designing patches, you got to think about it in terms of an actual track. You can make these crazy sounds, but I mean, when are you going to actually ever use them? I mean, it's kind of... like, that is cool. You could definitely resample that and make something out of it, I think. Why do I have... This is definitely not cool. So what I want to do is have it on monophonic. Yeah, legato triller. You can, if you have Massive, you can definitely check that stuff out. So that's my bass sound with the added sub oscillator. But yeah, like I was saying, you want to think in terms of like actual music, because if otherwise it's kind of like just like a synth jerk off in a sense. So let's do 2 more sounds. So on your own 9, we're down here, pretty sure. So pad, wobble, evolve. How does that sound? That's pretty nice, right? Yeah, I like that. So what can we hear underneath that? We can try, we could try a saw this time. Why not? That's not really that cool. That's better. So it's really almost like a sine. Let's listen to that in isolation. Just a little character up on top, just a little bit of extra harmonics. I think that's pretty nice. And just leave it at that. I don't want to take your whole day. I definitely go through these on your own. Pad, wobble, evolve with sub. And yeah. What else is the last one here? Lead, evolving. Think so. How's this sound? That's pretty cool. Got the noise on there, huh? This square doesn't sound too good. Actually, you know what? It does sound okay. But you just can't have the amp up too much, because again, Massive, I don't know why, but it kind of creates that compressed sound, which is okay. You might want that. But listen to that. That's kind of cool, huh? I wonder what would happen if I used the pulse width modulation and just kind of like made my pulse a little thinner. I kind of like it with a big fat pulse. That's with, and then bring it back down an octave. And I'm using that same thing that he said of playing up an octave, because you have the sub oscillator now creating the fundamental. So really, I don't know, you're changing the fundamental and moving all your frequencies that were the fundamental up to harmonics. So that's just a perfect fifth. Now let's play it back down. I don't know, I really like this technique. I use it all the time, and you know, it's like what makes a sound better? Just add low end to it. You know, it just thickens it up, and you can blend to taste. It doesn't need to be, you know, oh, this big thick sub on every sound. But you know, you always hear about sounds being thin and heavy, and that gives you a lot more, you know, to work with. You can start your track off very thin, and you know, think about like the old school 90s metal, you know, and then like everything comes in with the bass. So those are my 4 patches adding sub. Thank you for being a patron. $3 a month is definitely a commitment. But you know, I am doing my best to be committed to Hexspa as much as I can, and I do enjoy making these videos, and like I said, hopefully you guys enjoy them. So hit me up with any questions, comments, concerns, and I'll see you next week. Peace.